Hello there. I'm Varishka Rajagopal, and I am the founder at a career development company called Connect for Purpose, and this is Lunchtime Career Snacks. A little bit about me. I love food. I love traveling the world so that I can eat, as well as seeing the places, getting to know the people, really getting to understand the culture. And that's what I really enjoy in life. But one of the first things that I do when I go to a new location is I like to learn one phrase. And that phrase is thank you. Like in Tanzania, it's asante sana. I think that was right? But the moment I learn that, I feel that I'm able to start to connect with and build a relationship with the people in that space. It's something for them to agree with me, and for them, it makes them feel special as well. So I really enjoy learning that. Now, before we get going, I always like to bring you a video from The Way to Happiness that applies to the topic at hand. So I'm going to show that to you right now.
Hey! Get! Pay attention! Now look at this guy. What are you gonna do, kid? Go home. It's hopeless. Yeah.
So welcome back. I hope you liked that video from The Way to Happiness. So this is the website if you'd like to check that out. Now, I especially love that video. I love all the precepts or the ways of living that The Way to Happiness espouses. But this specific one, it's telling you how to live life in a way and start to experience life from others in the way that you would want to experience life. So it's telling you to treat others in the way that you would want them to treat you. And so our topic of conversation today is on the mental barriers that are stopping you from communicating with people who you disagree with or you struggle to find agreement with. And so if we think about, me going to spaces and starting to build relationships with people that I've not met, it's super simple there because I'm starting with something like, thank you. But now if you know a person and you work with that person, your career, it feels a bit more difficult to converse with people where you already have a disagreement, right? But now if we consider this way to happiness, that tells you to apologies, that tells you how to treat others and tells you to treat them in the way that you would like to be treated. You think on the fact that if you now had to communicate with that person and they did not want to communicate with you and you really needed something from them, how would you feel? Would you feel like this person is doing something wrong by you, especially when it's somebody that you work with? Let's take an example. Maybe it could be your boss. So you're communicating with your boss and you have an idea and you're trying to tell him that perhaps during the coffee break, you also have a time where you're learning something. So when I was working in corporate, we had it was called the brown bag session. So we would go have our lunch, and then somebody would then present something to us. Now, if you're bringing that to your boss, he's not even interested in listening to you because he has the viewpoint that he knows what's best for the organization, not you. And so he's unwilling to then listen to you. How would you feel if somebody was unwilling to listen to you, even if they didn't agree with you? How do you feel about that? And so for us to start to get other people to listen to us, we need to apply the Way to Happiness precept of treating them how we want them to treat us. And so we need to then start communicating with people where we listen to them first, irrespective of our viewpoints on whether we agree with them or not. And this also links back to previous videos. So previous videos that we had explained work-life balance. So if you were on those, you would know that work-life balance referred to having the ability to fully focus on the task at hand and not having your attention split elsewhere, really being able to get that piece of work done. And you can check out previous videos, live videos. It's on my Facebook or my YouTube streams, so you should be able to check that out. But now, if you think about work-life balance in that definition, and we're thinking of this video, you can then identify that there's certain things that you could do in order to start implementing this immediately, and so that you can stop having that mental barrier that, or not stop, but rather start trying to train yourself to be able to communicate with that person, even if you're not in agreement with them. Because the objective is to treat them how you would want them to treat you. So here's some 3 pointers on what you could do. 1, do not have a conversation with somebody when you know that that conversation is going to overlap with something else that you need to do. So you may have this deadline that's coming up, but because the person wants to communicate with you, and that could take like 15, 20 minutes, if you now take that time to talk to this person, it's going to overlap. Your mind is going to start to focus on what you need to get done. So your thoughts start to no longer be with that person, but it then moves over to what you need to do, okay? So I want you to be able to not do that conversation or have that conversation when you have something that needs to be done urgently, okay? So schedule when you could have that call or that conversation. Number 2 is move away from where you're working to have that conversation. Maybe move over to what we used to call the pause area or the coffee station. If you're at home, given that many of us are at home right now, if you're at home, not in the office, walk away from the office space if space permits, and then have that conversation so that you're not then looking at your laptop, not looking at other documentation that can distract you. And then you can really give that attention to that individual. And the third, and it's super important to start to learn to do this, it's listen to hear, like actually hear what the person is saying. You don't have to agree with that person. You just need to hear what they want to express. Because if they find that you're pushing your viewpoints onto them, and that's especially because you disagree with them, right? But if you're pushing your viewpoints onto them, you're not giving them that opportunity to truly explain themselves. And then their willingness to listen to you goes down. And this is a real skill that takes time. I mean, I'm still learning it. I hopefully am improving on it. And I see that it's granting the ability of that person to be himself, and that person is more willing to communicate with me. And what that means is that when I'm talking to them, I'm not thinking about what can I actually say to change this person's mind? What can I say to change this person's mind? I'm not continuously going into that cycle. And then I'm really listening to them, and I'm getting that data from them, which allows me to either hear their point of view and understand it and be willing to change my mind, Or it also allows me to think that, let me just take this information. Now I understand this person. What do I have that's knowledge that can help him understand my point of view better? And that's purely if you're right. So it's not about making that person digest exactly what you view as correct. It's now about communicating with each other on information that we hear from each other, right? And you'll start to see that if you do that more and more, individuals that experience that are going to be willing to do that with you. They're going to be willing to do that with other people. And so it becomes more of a way in which people feel confident to communicate, their viewpoints get heard, they feel heard, they start to listen more, you'll get listened to more, and like things just get loads better, right? So I want you to try and do that. Now, before we continue to your homework, I want to remind you that I always like to hear from you on what you'd like to hear about in my topics to come. So if you could go to connectforpurpose.com/survey, and even if you're watching this not live, if you're watching this on demand, please go through, let me know what you'd like to hear, and I will be sure to bring you some little snippet of information. So this is your homework. I want you to think of at least one person that you're not necessarily in agreement with. Given that it's still kind of lockdown-ish and people are not very open to meeting, maybe call this person up and just be willing to listen. Just hear what they want to say. Just listen and let them talk. I'm not saying let them gossip. I'm not saying let them rant. I'm saying let them be able to communicate to you whatever's happening. Try not to feel like whatever that person is saying is something that has to be real for you. That's not what it has to be. It just needs to be that you hear them. And continue to do this. Choose more and more people and try to communicate with them and allow them to be themselves. And you'll start to see that you're treating them the way that you would like to be treated. They'll start to treat you like, the way you'd like to be treated. You'll be much happier for it because that is the way to happiness. So if you want to achieve career success, you have to build good relationships. And this is one of the ways in which you can do so. So I invite you to communicate with me. You can go onto our messenger here and you can message me if you have any questions. You can comment on this video itself. Or you can please take our survey and you can let me know what you'd like to know more about. Have a beautiful week ahead and I will see you next week. Bye.